It's Nolan.
Got my legal hustle, welcome to the trap. I can blow a stack, bet I make it back. You can hit my line if you need a track, but we can't even talk if it ain't about the bag. Got my legal hustle, welcome to the trap. I can blow a stack, bet I make it back. You can hit my line if you need a track, but we can't even talk if it ain't about the bag. My studio sessions turn into fireworks. These reptiles on me like a Lacoste shirt. Plain Jane, make your eyes hurt. Fuck a sponsor. My mission to give it your price, but without the concert. Pandemic showed me I could get it off the muscle. I be grinding year round. Y'all be waiting for the summer. I just fill the gaps. Don't need a light for the tunnel. Y'all looking highly disgruntled. I used the mic for my hustle. Dog, I came up. Triple beam changed up. Built the team, serving up the fiends through the screen. Living out the dream. Still independent. Don't need the red tape. Game green, cut the dead weight, that's my headspace. Yeah, I've been a boss, I just now embraced it. Feeling in W9s like an application. Strong mind, advantageous, planning vacations. I put my dogs in the business like I'm Baron Davis. Got my legal hustle, welcome to the trap. I can blow a stack, bet I make it back. You can hit my line if you need a track, but we can't even talk if it ain't about the bag. Got my legal hustle, welcome to the trap. I can blow a stack, bet I make it back. You can hit my line if you need a track, but we can't even talk if it ain't about the bag.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. As y'all are entering the room, be sure to like the video. I know it's not always the thing that's on your mind when you come in here, but it definitely helps to expand the content, all right? If you enjoy it, if you enjoyed the channel, just make sure that you come in and like the video, share the video, and all those good things, okay? Now, yesterday, we had a new Diddy victim come out, Miss Thalia Graves. She did a press conference detailing her experience with Diddy back in 2001. I believe that her ex-boyfriend was an employee for Diddy and Bad Boy at the time. And she said that Diddy had lured her into the studio alongside with his head of security, and they proceeded to violate her, SA her, and there's video. They say they have video of this incident taking place. Once again, she did a press conference with her lawyer, Miss Gloria Allred, and I was very confused about the press conference. Now, in that video, in the comments, I saw some people saying, hey, you should have just read the filing. You should have just read the filing. You should have just read the filing. And at the time when the video dropped, I did not have the filing, okay? So I just want to clarify that for everybody out there that was saying I should have just read it. I did not have it at the time. And I literally found out about it as the woman had just went live with the press conference. And with all of these other incidents that had taken place involving Diddy, no one else had done any sort of press conferences. So I was really trying to get salvageable footage from the presser in which they were going to say something substantial to the case, right? So I was trying to get the visual of that, and I did not have the filing at the time. Now, Miss Megan Cuniff, who typically releases all of these types of things without you having to like go pay for a pacer, for all this other stuff that you got to do to get these legal documents, she released it. So today, we're going to read through all of the allegations in Miss Thalia Graves' lawsuit filing against Diddy, all right? And I just want y'all to understand, although I do this content, and this is, a great part of what I do, I'm still an artist. I play my music at the top of every show. I still write for other people. I do a lot of other things outside of just be here on camera. So if anything gets missed, please have some grace and just understand this is not all that I do. All right. And I have a family. So cool. I've already got this pulled up. So we're going to go ahead and get to it. Let me set my page up and then we will be off on the runnings. All right. Okay, so this is a 26-page lawsuit. Hopefully by page, 13, 14, we'll pretty much have the gist of what happened, because a lot of times, as y'all have seen on this channel, we go through these filings, and at a certain point it just gets very repetitive and kind of starts to lose a little bit of momentum. So whenever that drop off happens, we'll conclude the reading, all right? So we've got here United States District Court, Southern District of New York, Thalia Graves, plaintiff, versus Sean Combs, Joseph Sherman, who I believe was his head of security, Daddy's House Recordings Incorporated, see OPCO LLC, doing business as Combs Global, formerly known as Combs Enterprises, LLC, Bad Boy Entertainment, Holdings, Inc., Bad Boy Productions. So all of the companies that are, falling under Diddy's enterprise. Let's just say that much, okay? So, defendants, that's them. Plaintiff, Thalia Graves, by and through her attorneys, Allred, Morocco, and Goldberg, and Cootie Hecker, Wang LLP, for her complaint alleges as follows. Introduction. In or around the summer of 2001, can y'all see this? Let me make sure y'all can see this clearly, because it does look a little small here. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Let me see how that shows up. Looks like some of it is cut off. No, that's actually right there. All right. In or around the summer of 2001, plaintiff's life was violently knocked off course when defendant Sean Combs and Joseph Sherman viciously SA'd her at the Bad Boy Record Studio in New York City. Plaintiff was 25 at the time and dating one of Combs' employees, a relationship that Combs exploited to lure plaintiff into meeting him and Sherman alone. Once they successfully sequestered plaintiff, Combs and Sherman gave plaintiff a drink, likely laced with a drug that eventually caused her to briefly lose consciousness. She awoke to find herself bound and restrained. Combs and Sherman proceeded to brutally SA and violate plaintiff. Combs mercilessly took advantage of her anally and vaginally. Sherman forcefully slammed plaintiff onto a table, slapped her, and repeatedly thrust his, I won't even say manhood, but his body part into her mouth. Both men were undeterred by plaintiff's cries for help throughout the attack. So we're getting right to it. They just blatantly took advantage of this woman, brazenly. Plaintiff never recovered from defendant's violent SA. She had suicidal thoughts and ideation and has received extensive psychological treatment because of defendant's attack. For decades, she has remained silent and did not report the crime out of fear that defendants would use their power to ruin her life, as they had repeatedly, explicitly threatened to do. Okay, this is something that I was asking about yesterday, because they said that she was living in fear and that she was being harassed and stuff like that. But again, due to the press conference, no direct questions were answered. So I'm guessing we'll have to get all of our answers here. To this day, plaintiff suffers from severe depression, anxiety, and panic attacks and still lives in fear of defendants. Any progress plaintiff had made in healing from the attack over the years was dramatically reversed on or around November 27, 2023, when she learned for the first time that Combs and Sherman had video recorded the horrific incident 22 years before and had shown the video to multiple men seeking to publicly degrade and humiliate both plaintiff and her boyfriend. Okay? And I'm pretty sure we're not going to document who the boyfriend is, so, we'll just have to go off of what's here. Plaintiff could not believe that defendants would record themselves committing such a gruesome crime and then proceed proudly and widely to disseminate the recording of it. She was distraught and sunk into a deep depression. She again considered ending her life. This action seeks redress for defendants' brutalizing, misogynistic, and violent attacks on plaintiffs starting in 2001 with their SA and continuing in the subsequent years as they compounded her humiliation by showing the video of this incident to others. Okay? Plaintiff Thalia Graves is a female who now resides in Harris County, Texas. Defendant Sean Combs is a male who, on information and belief, resides in Los Angeles County, California, though at the time of the filing was incarcerated in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. On information and belief, at all relevant times, Combs owned and or controlled Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Inc., Bad Boy Productions Holdings, Inc., Bad Boy Books Holdings, Inc., Bad Boy Records, LLC, Bad Boy Entertainment, LLC, and all of these other companies. We'll just keep going. The facts of Combs' ownership and titles at the Combs Corporations enabled him to commit the unlawful sexual violence against plaintiff described herein and to harass and subsequently intimidate her into silence. Defendant Joseph Sherman, aka Big Joe, is a male who, on information and belief, resides in Westchester County, New York. On information and belief, Sherman was employed by Combs and or the Combs Corporations during the relevant period. The facts of Combs' ownership and titles and Sherman's titles at the Combs Corporations enabled Sherman to commit the unlawful violence against plaintiff described herein and to harass and subsequently intimidate her into silence. Defendant Daddy House Recordings Incorporated is a domestic business corporation that is incorporated in New York and, on information and belief, now has its principal place of business at 9255 Sunset Boulevard, second floor, West Hollywood, California, 90069. Combs is listed as the CEO, in public filings with a listed address of 1710 Broadway, New York, 10019. At the time of the events alleged herein, Daddy's House was a world-class recording studio owned by Combs. On information and belief, at all relevant times, Bad Boy and Combs together owned and operated Daddy's House. And this is a space where many artists came through, recorded music. For many years, I always wonder why they would call that shit Daddy's House. I know that he originally went by Puff Daddy, but I don't think I could ever have comfortably recorded music and hung out and been in a place called Daddy's House. I don't think I could ever told nobody I was in a place called Daddy's House comfortably, to be honest, especially if it ain't my goddamn daddy house, because I don't even call that nigga daddy. But we'll just keep going. On information and belief, the Bad Boy recording studio was located on the premises of Daddy's House. Combs and Sherman used the Daddy's House premises and their ownership and titles at Daddy's House to commit the unlawful sexual violence against plaintiff described herein and to harass and subsequently intimidate her into silence. Defendant CE Opco, LLC, doing business as Combs Global, is a limited liability company incorporated in Delaware that has its principal place of business at 9255. We'll keep going, because we don't need the information about each of these businesses. We just really want to get to what they did. Okay, so work with me here. Defendants' organizational does 1 through 10 are currently unknown entities who were owned and or employed defendants Combs and or Sherman and enabled the commission of the conduct complained of herein. As the parties engage in discovery, plaintiff retains the right to amend the complaint to add these entities by name. Each of these Combs enterprises aided and abetted Combs and Sherman in committing the unlawful sexual violence against plaintiff described herein and or in harassing and subsequently intimidating her into silence, provided Combs and Sherman with the studio office space where they committed and or with chattel, including recording equipment, storage equipment, etc., to record and disseminate it. They are also alter egos for Combs, completely dominated by him and used for his personal interests and to engage in wrongdoing which harm plaintiff and others and or serve or have served as vehicles for Combs to move, dispose of, and or insulate his assets, including in connection with his criminal activities, and to avoid compensating the victims of his many crimes, including plaintiff. Okay. Let's see here. Jurisdiction and venue. This court has subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to 28 USC 1332 because this case is between citizens of different states and the amount in controversy exceeds $75,000. This court has specific personal jurisdiction over defendants because the acts giving rise to plaintiffs' claims took place in New York State and because several of the defendants are domiciled in New York State and or regularly transact business in New York State. Okay? Jury demand. Plaintiff hereby demands a trial by jury on her claims in this action. Here are the factual allegations and background. Plaintiff's family immigrated to New York City. Oh, so these are some of the questions that weren't answered in the press conference here, like her background, where she comes from. I saw some people saying, hey, this press conference isn't about revealing evidence, but I would think if it's in the lawsuit, you should be able to speak about it and not veer from it. But anyway, we're just gonna stick to this. Plaintiff's family immigrated to New York City when plaintiff was a teenager in connection with her mother's work. Her family ultimately settled in Rego Park, Queens, where she completed her education and where she was living when she met Combs. Defendant Combs, also known by his stage names of Puff Daddy, Puffy, P. Diddy, Diddy, Brother Love, or Love, is a prominent rapper, record executive, and businessman. He rose to fame in the 1990s with his record label Bad Boy and continued to be a notable figure in the music and entertainment industry in the following years. Combs has continued to amass wealth and power through his business ventures in the music, fashion, fragrance, beverage, marketing, film, television, and media industries. The Bad Boy enterprise is the foundation of Combs' wealth and power. Bad Boy has sold over 500 million records through its lucrative distribution deals with the top music companies in the world and has signed acclaimed hip-hop and R&B artists, including the Notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, and Usher. Was Usher ever on Bad Boy? I don't know if that's actually accurate, but we'll continue. Yeah, Usher and Mary J. Blige were never actual Bad Boy artists, but they were closely associated. We know that Usher was sent to go live with Diddy at a point, and I guess he was sent there to learn the ways of the industry. I don't see how that was all that beneficial, but I guess it paid off in his career. There are some allegations out there about alleged mistreatment of Usher in a inappropriate manner. And there's some allegations out there on Mary J. Blige as well as to her dealings in Combs' weird empire. But as of this video, we don't have proof on any of that, right? So let's just keep going. Combs later founded CE Opco, also known as Combs Enterprises, later rebranded as Combs Global, to serve as a home for his portfolio of businesses, including his investments in music, fashion, fragrance, beverage, marketing, film, television, and media. On information and belief, Combs Global houses Bad Boy and other notable businesses such as Combs Fashion Line, Sean John, his vodka line Ciroc, and his cable media company, Revolt Media. As detailed below, see Infra 57 through 64, Combs has a long history of violence and of abusing and essaying women, and there have been several civil lawsuits filed against Combs in the past year alleging sexual violence and abuse. That is absolutely correct. This is the 11th lawsuit detailing similar and same sort of allegations. On September 16, 2024, Combs was arrested and charged with racketeering and trafficking. He was denied bail. Defendant Sherman, also known as Big Joe, was employed by Combs as his bodyguard and head of security during the relevant time period described herein and served in various roles in the Combs corporations. Sherman is also the founder of Rhymes and Dimes magazine. Interesting. A New York State registered corporation, and through or in connection with that company produces and distributes pornography. That's what it sounded like. On information and belief, he has often distributed videos of his and or his friend's sexual assaults through his pornography company. So they're saying that he has been distributing porn of live action SA through his company. Plaintiff met defendant Combs in or around late 1999 or early 2000 through her then boyfriend, who was an executive at Bad Boy. In addition to working together, plaintiff's boyfriend and Combs had a close personal relationship. Plaintiff frequently visited her boyfriend at the Bad Boy Studio in New York City and attended events hosted at Combs' residences. Over time, Plaintiff became familiar with Combs and he knew about her relationship with her boyfriend. In or around the summer of 2001, Plaintiff received a call from Combs concerning her boyfriend's employment at Bad Boy. He told her he wanted to meet with her in person to discuss her boyfriend's supposed performance issues, which off rip is extremely inappropriate. Why would you call a man's woman about his performance issues in the workplace? If you can't address it directly with him, then it sounds like there's nobody you should be addressing anything with. So that's already, a violation on his end. Her boyfriend was determined to climb up the ladder at Combs' record label, and as his romantic partner, Plaintiff was committed to helping him. Plaintiff agreed to meet with Combs. In retrospect, it was evidently a sick and twisted way of using his ownership of and title at Bad Boy and its affiliate entities to abuse Plaintiff and to show his power and ability to humiliate her boyfriend, his executive. A few hours later, Combs arrived at Plaintiff's mother's residence in Queens with Sherman, who was employed by Combs as his bodyguard at the time. Okay, so he came and picked her up from her mother's house. Sherman was driving an SUV and Combs was in the back seat. After Plaintiff entered the vehicle, Combs offered her a glass of wine, which she accepted. You already know where this is going. Combs began discussing his alleged concerns about her boyfriend's performance at work. Meanwhile, as Plaintiff drank what had been handed to her, she started to feel lightheaded, dizzy, and physically weak. In retrospect, it is clear that Combs had caused a drug to be put into Plaintiff's drink. A few sips of wine had never impacted her in that way. This is, you already know this is going down a sick, twisted turn. Combs and Sherman drove Plaintiff to the Bad Boy Studio in Manhattan. When they arrived and Plaintiff tried to get out of the car, she realized that she was feeling odd and found it difficult to walk. She assumed this was her fault and did her best to act normal and followed Combs as he led her eventually to a couch in a private room in the Bad Boy Studio. She later came to understand this was Combs' personal lounge and office at the studio. Combs sat on the couch next to Plaintiff and continued speaking to her. Plaintiff began feeling even more woozy and sedated. She then lost consciousness. When Plaintiff regained consciousness, she was naked and her hands were tied behind her. What the fuck? Were tied behind her back with what felt like a plastic grocery bag. Plaintiff shouted for help. In response, Sherman, the security guy, lifted her up from the couch and forcefully slammed her face down on what was apparently a pool table. Shortly thereafter, Combs entered the room naked. So they waited until she woke up to then slam her on a pool table. This is, Combs reached for a container of lubricant that smelled like menthol and proceeded to apply it to his male genitalia. He then bent Plaintiff over the table, causing her feet to dangle above the floor, forcefully held her down, and anally penetrated her without consent. Come on, dog. Plaintiff is 4 feet 11 inches tall and weighed only 103 pounds at the time. Plaintiff was unable to move, totally overpowered physically, in addition to being drugged and bound. Plaintiff screamed out in pain, but Combs continued to violently sodomize her. He easily physically overpowered her, smashing her head down at the pool table while she futilely tried to wriggle out from under him. During the brutal attack, Plaintiff vomited into her mouth and on the table. At one point, she involuntarily defecated. Wow. Combs was undeterred. He wiped himself off, applied more lubricant, and without any acknowledgement of Plaintiff's distress, proceeded to vaginally penetrate Plaintiff. This nigga's sick, bro. Absolutely sick. I maintain my stance, man. I don't wish death on nobody, man. But niggas should have put him to sleep long ago. Plaintiff experienced intense pain and burning sensations in her vagina and anus. Plaintiff continued to scream for help because of the extreme pain she felt as Combs penetrated her over and over. She then lost consciousness again. The next time she regained consciousness, Plaintiff was on the couch and Sherman was standing in front of her with his bare genitalia in her face. So now the weak ass, sorry ass security is trying to get in on it. Fucking disgusting. Sherman slapped Plaintiff in the face and forcefully inserted his genitalia into her mouth. Sherman slapped her yet again. Come on, dog. What the fuck is... What the fuck, man? Sherman slapped her yet again and continued. Plaintiff once again lost consciousness. When she next awoke, Plaintiff was on the couch naked and alone in the room. Plaintiff was in severe pain and distress. Her anus and vagina burned. Her face and wrists were bruised, and her genital area smelled strongly of menthol. She felt a liquid, presumably semen, dripping from inside of her. Her dress was thrown over her. Her purse was on the couch next to her, and her bra was on the floor nearby. She did not see her underpants. Terrified that Combs and Sherman would return, Plaintiff quickly got dressed and bolted out of the studio room where she had been SA'd. So at this point, was she, I guess they had taken the bondage off of her? Still dizzy and weak, Plaintiff called a livery driver that her family regularly hired and knew well. The driver picked her up from outside Bad Boy's studio. She was disheveled, crying uncontrollably, and suffering from agonizing pain. The driver drove her to the hospital and tried to convince her to report, and get a kit, but she was unable to leave the car, shaking and crying hysterically, and terrified of what Combs would do to her and her family if she reported him. The aftermath. Plaintiff sustained serious physical injuries in the aftermath. As noted, she had burning in her vagina and anus and bruising on her wrist and face. In the days after the assault, she suffered prolonged and bleeding and hemorrhoids. Jesus. Because of Combs' power and notoriety, Plaintiff was afraid to report what had happened. She was involved in a contentious divorce and custody battle at the time and feared that reporting this would cause her to lose custody of her young child. Plaintiff confided in her boyfriend, Combs' employee, hoping he would comfort and support her, but instead of supporting her, he discouraged her from disclosing the assault. You sorry ass, weak ass nigga, bro. Telling her that it could negatively impact his own career. Your career was already down the drain. The nigga was already dissatisfied with your bitch ass. We'll just keep going. Following the assault, and multiple times over the years, both Combs and Sherman contacted Plaintiff and warned her to be silent, threatening repercussions, including Plaintiff potentially losing custody of her son if she ever disclosed the assault. Because of their enormous power in the industry, including through ownership and position at the Combs corporations, Plaintiff knew that they could follow through on their threats. Plaintiff told close friends that Combs and Sherman had drugged and savagely essayed her, but as noted, was afraid to report the attack to the police out of fear that the defendants would follow through on their threats. She was even afraid to stay in New York City while Combs lived there, so with the help of a friend, she fled to Pennsylvania. Plaintiff has in fact relocated multiple times throughout the years in an effort to stay away from Combs. Plaintiff has suffered irreparable harm because of the brutal by defendants, Combs and Sherman. She suffers from severe depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. She also has suffered suicidal ideation and intrusive thoughts and has attempted to end her life. Plaintiff lives in constant fear. She struggles with hypervigilance and experiences anxiety and panic attacks in social settings, preferring to be alone. Her need to hide to feel safe has strained her relationships with friends and family. Defendant's SA has also impacted plaintiff's ability to engage in sexual acts with intimate partners. To this day, she cannot be in certain sexual positions without experiencing flashbacks of Combs violently penetrating her from behind. On or about November 27, 2023, all the trauma came flooding back to plaintiff when her former boyfriend revealed to her for the first time that Combs and Sherman had recorded and published the video of the horrific attack. So he held on to this information for over 20 years, the ex-boyfriend. Earlier that month, Cassie Ventura had come forward and filed a lawsuit against Combs for subjecting her to years of severe sexual and physical abuse. The case had been settled one day after it had been filed. Plaintiff's former boyfriend invoked Ms. Ventura's effort to hold Combs accountable and for the first time confessed that years earlier, but sometime after the actual incident itself, Sherman and Combs had showed him and a group of men, some of whom were also employed by Combs companies and or their related entities, the video of plaintiff being as aid. He disclosed that Combs and Sherman had a pattern and practice of non-consensually recording women engaging in sexual acts and making those videos available to the public, including by selling tapes as porn. Now, what I'm trying to understand, sir, is how you held on to this for 20 years, right? Where did you end up? Where did you end up? Why you ain't quit your job? Why you ain't resign, right? I don't know. I've never heard of people being restricted from resigning from their post at Bad Boy. That's something I have not heard about, sir. People that have worked at Bad Boy have gone on to create other companies, work at other companies. So why were you bound to his company? Why would you hold on to this information for 20-something years and wait until Cassie comes out with her account of what happened to her for you to finally support this woman when she told you what the fuck it was way back then, and you told her not to do shit, not to say shit? You should have known based on your information and belief that you saw them doing this to numerous people. You should have known off rip when she told you what it was, what was happening, because they have a pattern of doing so, but you didn't support her at that time. You deserve the worst, sir. A Bad Boy artist later corroborated in a text message that Sherman used to sell porn of him doing this to chicks and that Sherman did this to a lot of women. Plaintiff's former boyfriend reported that he and the other men watched the recording of plaintiff on a handheld camera while at the studio in New York City. Combs, Sherman, and some of the other... Y'all gotta... Hold on, man. Let me clear my throat. All right. Combs, Sherman, and some of the other men made derogatory comments about the former boyfriend's relationship with plaintiff in an attempt to shame him into cutting ties with plaintiff and to cause her further emotional harm and embarrassment. On information and belief, defendants continued to show the video to others over the years and through to the present and or sold the video. Plaintiff was shocked and horrified that Combs and Sherman had recorded and publicized the video of them as-ing her after over 2 decades spent trying to heal and distance herself from the experience. Plaintiff was devastated by the news. She felt as if her life had been turned upside down again, and like the essay had been happening again and again, even as she was trying to forget it. She experienced acute psychological distress, plunging into a deep depression and having suicidal ideations. She felt intense fear, anger, and anxiety. Plaintiff lives with the distress of knowing that the video of her brutal essay is in circulation and that anyone, including her family, friends, and peers, could view it at any time. In a panic, she reached out to Sherman after learning about the tape, hoping to protect herself from further humiliation by convincing him to destroy the tape or provide it to her, but he did not respond. Combs has a long history of violence and abuse. This long-standing behavior has been enabled by his ownership of and titles at the Combs corporations and their affiliated entities and the immense wealth and power he has amassed through such business dealings. Among a long list of allegations, in 1996 he was found guilty of criminal mischief for threatening a photographer from the New York Post with a gun. I think he did the same thing to somebody at Vibe too. In 1999, he was arrested and charged with second-degree assault and criminal mischief in connection with the beating of a record executive, which I believe, no, I can't even say because there was a few people he beat up. There was the Steve Stout situation. There was also what's the homie that ended up taking his own life? The dude that used to work at Def Jam, Shakir Stewart. There's also that. So all of that could have been either or, right? I think that was the Shakir Stewart situation because I read about that. And arrested again the same year in relation to a shooting at a club in New York, which we all know about. That female victim has consistently stated that Combs shot her in the face at point blank range. That woman is Miss Natanya Rubin. Please say her name, please and thank you loudly. Okay? Combs also has a pattern and practice of using his power and influence in the music and entertainment industries to submit people to sexual violence, often drugging his victims and or coercing them to consume drugs and recording the assaults, often without the victim's knowledge, just as he did with plaintiff. In the past year, a number of these people have come forward to accuse Combs of SA and or trafficking. In November 2023, 3 lawsuits were filed against Combs under the New York Adult Survivors Act. As noted above, Cassie Ventura, an artist signed to Bad Boy, sued Combs in the Southern District of New York for years-long physical abuse, facilitated in part by Combs having supplied Miss Ventura with copious amounts of drugs and urging her to take them, beginning in 2006. Combs regularly recorded Miss Ventura engaging in sex acts as he forced her to engage in. Miss Joy Dickerson Neal, who had appeared with Combs in a music video, sued Combs in New York County Supreme Court, alleging Combs drugged her, SA'd her, and secretly recorded the assault in 1991. This is at the beginning of his fucking career. Miss Liza Gardner, we've gone through all of these lawsuits on this channel, whom Combs met at an event hosted by a record label affiliated with Bad Boy, sued him for SA'ing her and a friend in 1990 or 1991 when she was only 16 years old. She was a minor. Miss Joy Dickerson Neal said that he kneeled down in the club asking her to forgive him and not tell nobody. All of this shit I remember going through. In December 2023, an anonymous plaintiff sued Combs in the Southern District of New York for drugging and gang SA'ing her. In 2003, she was only 17 years old. That complaint alleges that Combs and one of his business associates and employees lured the plaintiff to Daddy's house through their affiliations with the Bad Boy Enterprise and its related entities, and her at the same location where plaintiff was taken advantage of. I believe that was the young lady from Detroit. In February of 2024, Rodney Lil Rod Jones, one of Combs' former producers, sued Combs for forcing him to engage in unwanted sex acts and sex trafficking, among other allegations. In that complaint, Mr. Jones alleges that Combs regularly drugged others, including minors, by giving them alcoholic beverages laced with ecstasy and other date rape, that he believes he himself was drugged by Combs, and that he routinely secretly recorded sexual encounters. In May of 2024, 2 more women sued Combs. Former model Crystal McKinney, we also talked about her, sued Combs in the Southern District of New York for drugging and SA'ing her at his recording studio in 2003. Combs had promised to help advance her modeling career, a promise she believed he would fulfill because of his ownership and or titles at the Bad Boy Enterprise and its related entities. April Lampros, an intern at Arista Records, which was an owner of Bad Boy, also sued Combs in May 2024 in New York County Supreme Court for SA'ing her on multiple occasions, secretly filming at least one of the assaults and showing it to multiple people. Ms. Lampros alleges that Combs ordered her to take drugs on one occasion before. The pattern is staggering. In July 2024, we talked about this as well, former adult film star Audra English, who was employed by Combs as an entertainer at his infamous white parties, that brought together the biggest names in music and entertainment industry, sued Combs in the Southern District of New York for trafficking, alleging that he required her to consume drinks laced with ecstasy and secretly recorded the sexual acts he forced her to engage in. And I do remember her vividly because she was saying that Diddy was forcing her to sleep with high-ranking executives in the industry, you know, to further her career and to also, I believe, further his connection with those people. But more likely, it was to record those people and have some sort of collateral over them so that they would be bound to his requests. In September 2024, singer-songwriter Dawn Angelique Richard also sued Combs. Richard was employed by Combs as part of the girl group Danity Kane, formed by Combs, and later as key member of Combs' band Diddy Dirty Money. She sued Combs in the Southern District of New York for SA, false imprisonment, and for subjecting her to hostile working conditions due to her gender, including degrading comments and threats. Now, remember, the false imprisonment was when they forced her to sit in Diddy's car, locked in for hours in the cold, no heat in the car during the winter. Her father came to retrieve her, drove up, and at the point where her father arrived, Diddy said, "Think about your family before you try anything with me." Basically stating, you try anything with me, people from your family will be affected by that decision, right? Ms. Richard has alleged that Combs regularly supplied others, including minors, with copious amounts of drugs and alcohol, subjected them to sex acts while they were sedated and or unconscious due to the drugs and alcohol. On September 16, 2024, Combs was arrested at a Manhattan hotel after a grand jury indicted him on charges of trafficking and racketeering. The indictment details how for decades, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. Okay? It notes that Combs' abuse of women was enabled by the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. And we also know that these people have been contacting witnesses, victims, etc., trying to coerce them into changing their stories, right? The indictment notes that Combs' business was operated at various times in both Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global. According to the indictment, physical abuse by Combs was recurrent and widely known. It notes that Combs' assaults on women included striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects, and kicking them. And this has been stated in multiple situations. Combs was also charged with using the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. And the indictment notes that his employees' conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the business. The indictment specifically refers to the involvement of Combs' security staff, likely referring to Sherman. It notes that Combs and his affiliates recorded SA and controlled victims through the use of drugs. In or about March 2024, law enforcement seized narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant from Combs' residences. And unfortunately, I feel like the baby oil thing has definitely been sensationalized. I mean, 1,000 bottles of baby oil is a lot. You know, just one bottle would last the average person a long time. But let's not be distracted by that, right? Because that turns it into a joke. That turns it into some sort of spectacle. And we've had uneducated, idiotic rappers coming out trying to absolve him of his actions by saying it's not a crime to have lots of baby oil. Well, that's not the crime being detailed. It's only supplementary information, you know what I'm saying, that goes neck and neck with his crimes, because he clearly was applying some sort of substance to his genitalia as he violated this woman. Now, I don't believe it was baby oil if it smelled like menthol, but whatever it was, we know that he's been doing this. Combs' long history of violence against women makes unmistakably clear that his actions, including his attack of plaintiff, have been motivated by gender. Specifically, he has a profound contempt for women and an ongoing practice of denigrating and trying to humiliate them. Combs' treatment of plaintiff accords with his pattern and practice of drugging and secretly recording the women he is abusing. By viciously and violently forcing contact, oral sex, anal sexual intercourse on plaintiff, defendants Combs and Sherman committed a crime of violence motivated by gender under the Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, as defined in New York City Administrative Code 10-1103. Okay? And I do believe at this point they're repeating what we already know. Just trying to see if there's anything else that should be noted here. Okay, what's this? Plaintiff hereby incorporates each of the foregoing paragraphs as if fully set forth herein by essaying plaintiff and recording it. Defendants use plaintiff to be depicted in a video image unclothed and with intimate body parts exposed and engaging in sexual conduct with another person in violation of New York Civil Rights Law 52B. Defendants published and or disseminated the video without plaintiff's knowledge or consent on information and belief. Defendants have continued to disseminate the video, including by selling it as porn throughout the present. Plaintiff was fully identifiable in the video. Plaintiff had a reasonable expectation that defendants would not secretly record a violent essay of her and disseminate the video to others. By intentionally publicly humiliating plaintiff and trying to ruin plaintiff's romantic relationship with her then boyfriend, when they published the video, defendants had the purpose of harassing, annoying, and alarming plaintiff. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's actions in violation of New York Civil Rights Law 52B, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer emotional harm, including mental anguish, emotional distress, and humiliation in an amount to be determined at trial. Defendant's violations of New York Civil Rights Law 52B were malicious, willful, wanton, and outrageous, entitling plaintiff to an award of punitive damages. Defendant should be ordered to account for and destroy all copies of the video that are in their actual or constructive possession, custody, or control. Defendant should be temporarily and permanently enjoined from further disseminating or publishing any intimate images of plaintiff. Okay. And again, this is all repeating what we already know. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. All right. Now, with all that being said, I know there's some people out there that may err on the side of cynicism, right? Like, oh, why is everybody coming out now? What is this, a cash grab? All of those things. And I kind of understand how can I say it? I understand the thought, not the sentiment. I understand the thought, right? But you got to understand that this is a person of immense power that we're speaking about, especially in the location where this happened. We're talking about New York City, right? New York City, if y'all can go back to 2001, especially, the importance of a Diddy to New York City. They running my city like Diddy, right? Just a few years within that time period, that nigga ran a weak-ass marathon and they acted like he was a fucking gladiator. This nigga had the Vote or Die campaign like he really gave a fuck about voting or politics, and the city backed him. Right? This the same nigga that had grown-ass men wearing no bitch-ass in his shirts when he was the bitch-ass nigga all along, and people knew it. Right? These are just minor things in comparison to what we now know. But this is just a little bit of like the power he was wielding. I mean, this nigga just recently had the fucking key to the city, and the sorry ass mayor, he was hesitant to take the shit from the nigga. It took months for him to finally say, all right, man, we need that back. And that was this year. So there is a very relevant power dynamic. And until you're like in the position of some of these people, and it's not just women, because Lil Rod is telling us that he was taken advantage of in the same way, and that other men were also taken advantage of in the same way. So this is not just about women. This is about people. This is about human violation, right? And although many of us can sit and say that wouldn't be me, I would assume most people that found themselves in these predicaments probably once upon a time said the same thing. So we got to just have a little bit of grace. I have zero grace for Diddy. I have zero grace for none of these fucking security detail, for this guy Sherman. I have zero grace for Gene Deal, who's been out here talking for years, but you never submitted any sort of information to the police. You've been talking and talking, but when it was actually, paramount for you to step in and do something of note, you didn't do shit. So fuck you for life. And you can keep talking. I don't give a fuck how many times they show your Art of Dialogue videos on the news, and hopefully it makes you feel some form of self-importance. No, nigga. Fuck you. Keep talking, though. Keep sharing. But there's no redemption for you, sir. You sat by and watched this shit happen. You sat by and watched this man allegedly smack his mama. You sat back. I refuse to believe if you saw him smack his mama and nothing happened, you witnessed the same shit that these women are talking about. These people are talking about. Mr. Gene Deal. I don't give a fuck. You can keep telling us that story about goddamn Biggie not wanting to go to Cali. I don't give a fuck. You can keep telling us this story. Like you got a whole cycle of shit. Oh, Diddy jumped over a ledge trying to escape Tupac and Death Row. He said, I don't give a fuck if these niggas live or die. Yeah, keep telling that shit. Keep trying to make yourself feel better. But when you were in position to step in and do something, you did absolutely nothing. Now all you can do is come out and say what you seen. Fuck all that, bruh. You one of the biggest niggas in the motherfucking situation. Oh, well, you scared to lose your life? But you security though. Your life is on the line every time you step outside because you're protecting a motherfucker who is at risk. So nah, I don't see it for none of these niggas. You know what I'm saying? As it pertains to these security folks. Roger Bonds, you on the list too. Y'all niggas said y'all seen shit happen to Cassie. He physically beat her up in the back of a car and all this shit. Don't come out telling us this shit now. I mean, you can. It's helpful to corroborate stories, but don't think y'all getting no cookies and milk because of it. Y'all niggas should actually be in the cell next to his ass because these lawsuits are saying people were aiding and abetting. I would have to give y'all aiding and abetting as well. Y'all were accessories to crimes, paid accessories to crimes. Fuck you niggas. That's what I've got for y'all on that. That was tough to get through in terms of reading that actual lawsuit, the things that they did to her. That was actually, comparatively speaking, one of the worst, detailings. And when I say worse, I don't mean in terms of the writing. I mean in terms of the alleged acts. So yeah, man, y'all could fry that nigga. Y'all could put extra Crisco and flour, double. What they do in Korea? They double fry their chicken, double fry his ass. That's what I got for y'all. Let me know what y'all think about this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and become an insider. Subscribe to the channel. And I've got more content coming for you very shortly. All right? Much love and respect, y'all. Do what you got to do, Sage, to get the negative energy off you, because that was a lot. But I'll catch y'all on the next one with hopefully some lighter content. All right? Peace.
King of my city and cul-de-sac. Coming, I swinging like soldier rag. Leading my people like quarterback. Boy, I study this shit, I'm an almanac. Had to get up and grind. Knowledge is booming, I'm here to apply. Came with the chip and the dip, it just single the mind. We finna do more than survive. I need my check. Spinning the block for the Gouda. We hitting the jeweler to flood out the net. We don't do beef on computers, I'm straight out the sewer. We come when you rest. Niggas be looking perplexed, so keeping my foot on their neck. No map, I trust my gut for the quest. With drama, I'm fully abreast. I was ready for years and they died of me. All of a sudden, they tell me they proud of me. I been dropping these haters like calories. Cross them out, I came back with some boundaries. Stand for my honor, but too raw, no corner. Packing the stick with a drummer. Wanna catch my bad, won't fumble. I done came too far to be humble.